This happened just a few weeks ago. I'm 34, a social worker, and looking for a fresh start after a rough couple of years. I thought moving to this quiet suburban neighborhood would help me heal. The houses looked like they were from the 90s, the streets were filled with kids playing, and I liked that people were grilling in their backyards. It felt hopeful. On my first night, everything seemed normal. Laughter and the smell of barbecue filled the air. I was glad to find some peace. But later, when I went to bed, I noticed the porch light next door was still on. I assumed it was an oversight. As the days turned into weeks, the light stayed on. Sometimes it flickered, like it wanted to get my attention. It was strange. I often heard noises from that house, muffled laughter mixed with cries. I was confused. Each time I glanced out the window, I caught glimpses of my neighbors inside. Their faces didn't match the sounds. It really unnerved me. One night, I stood by the window, my heart racing. The light flickered again. A chill ran down my spine. Something stopped me from going over. I felt fear and curiosity twisting together. I kept staring, wondering if something was wrong. Later, I heard the laughter again. It sounded different, almost wrong. It sent shivers through me. I felt cold, as if someone had just entered my room. I thought about calling for help but couldn't move. I kept telling myself it was just my imagination. The next evening, I watched the house again. The light flickered, drawing me in. Why would they keep it on all night? Were they even home? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was the only one paying attention. I saw the same vague shapes inside, their faces blank. It was unsettling. Then, one night, something moved past the window. I nearly lost my breath. I felt the urge to run away. But I had to check. When I looked outside, my blood went cold. They stood just inside, staring at me. Their grins felt so wrong. The smiles didn't reach their eyes. I blinked, and they vanished like a ghost. Now, I didn't know what to do. Should I confront them? Or should I stay away? I decided to keep my distance and watch from my window, hoping to understand what was happening. Days passed, and I still noticed the light flickering all night. I didn't dare knock on their door. I felt trapped between my curiosity and fear. Then, one night, I saw a shadow by the window again. My heart pounded. I leaned to get a better view. They looked out, their eyes meeting mine. They grinned wider, but it didn't feel friendly. It felt wrong. I took a step back, panic rising. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt I was being watched. Maybe I was imagining things. But something in me knew I was in over my head. I just kept watching. I felt like I was waiting for something terrible to happen. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I tossed and turned, my thoughts racing. The grins, the flickering light, the sounds I couldn't explain, they invaded my mind like unwelcome guests. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, wondering who these people were. Were they dangerous? Were they even real? As dawn broke, I decided I needed to take action. Curiosity tugged at me. I had to know what was going on in that house. I could no longer remain just an observer. I thought about my work as a social worker. I was trained to help people. Maybe I could extend that compassion to my neighbors, even if it terrified me. After breakfast, I put on my jacket and took a deep breath. I walked slowly toward their front door, my fists clenched at my sides. I rehearsed what I would say in my head, but nothing felt right. I stopped just short of their porch, the smell of smoke lingering in the air. The light above the door was off now, but shadows danced behind the curtained windows. Then I noticed something. A small figure peering through a slightly open window. My heart sank. It was a child, looking out at me. They had dark hair and wide eyes, gazing with a mixture of curiosity and caution. I felt an immediate connection, a pull towards them. I knelt down and smiled, hoping to ease their fears like I did with the kids in my job. "Hi there. Is everything okay?" Without warning, the child vanished from the window as if they had never been there. I blinked, bewildered. Was it my imagination? The memories of laughter and cries flooded back, twisting my stomach. I looked around to see if anyone else was outside, but the street remained still and quiet. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but something held me there. I had to know more. Just as I turned to step off the porch, I heard that laughter again, muffled, unnatural, echoing from inside the house. It sent chills down my spine. The sound was different, almost chaotic, like something terrible was happening behind those walls. I took a step back and nearly stumbled. Then I noticed the door slightly ajar. My breath quickened. It felt like an invitation and a warning at the same time. Should I go in? I hesitated. But before I could decide, a figure appeared at the door. It was one of the adults from the house. Their face was blank, but that same grin stretched across their lips. They didn't move, just stood there, blocking the entrance. For a moment, the world around me faded, and all I could see was that smile. Then everything shifted. I sensed a wave of dread wash over me. I couldn't breathe. What was I doing? Standing frozen, I watched them tilt their heads slightly, as if waiting. When I saw it, a flicker of movement behind them in the house. Shadows darted past the stock-still adult, and my heart dropped. Someone else was inside. I needed to run, but my feet felt rooted to the ground. As terror sank in, I took a step back, ready to flee. Before I could turn away, the adult's grin widened, and I heard their voice, hollow and cold. Stay a while. I couldn't stay. I turned and dashed back to my house. My heart raced, and I locked the door behind me. The flickering light in their window was back, and I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out what was really happening on that street. And I needed to be ready for whatever came next. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. What had just happened? I tried to coax my mind into believing it was nothing. Just a trick of shadows and the mind playing games. But deep down, I felt the weight of that cold voice echoing in my thoughts. Stay a while. I tried to focus on my work, but the familiar faces of clients blurred, and the comforting routine faded. As the sun set, I couldn't shake the resolve that had built within me. I grabbed my notebook and jotted down questions, anything I could think of that might help me understand what I was up against. What was happening in that house? Who were those people? And more importantly, why were they laughing like that? Once it was dark, I found myself peering out my window, the light from their home strong against the evening gloom. The flicker had turned into a steady glow, vibrant and pulsating. It was hard to look away. It almost felt alive. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to go back. Before I knew it, I was outside again, the chill of the night wrapping around me. My heart raced as I crossed the street, but I refused to let fear grip my mind. I paid extra attention to the door this time. No crumpled mat to announce my approach, no careless steps to give me away. I stood in front of the house, staring at the splintering wood of their front door. Just as I was about to knock, it creaked open slightly, just like before. My breath caught. Should I go inside? Would I just be walking into a trap? But curiosity overrode my hesitation. I took a step forward, and the door swung open wider. The dim light spilled out around me, inviting and eerie. I squinted into the house, but I saw no one. Just shadows lounging along the walls and that unsettling laughter in the distance. Taking a deep breath, I stepped inside. The door clicked shut behind me, and for a moment, I stood frozen. The hallway was longer than I anticipated and covered with old photographs, each one depicting happy faces smiling back at me. But their eyes seemed to follow my movements, and I couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort settling over me. I moved deeper into the house, my feet whispering against the worn floorboards. The laughter had quieted, but I could hear a faint sound, a soft tapping, rhythmic and persistent, coming from a room at the end of the hall. My pulse quickened. I didn't want to go further, but escape felt even further away. As I neared the door, something made me pause. A shimmering light spilled from the edges. It looked like the flickering I had seen before, but this time it felt different, almost sinister. When I heard it, a child's voice, muffled yet sorrowful. Help me! I stood frozen in place. The laughter was gone, replaced by something far more troubling. I was now faced with a choice: open the door and discover what lay beyond, or turn back and return to the safety of ignorance. My hand trembled as it hovered over the handle. Before I could think, I twisted it open. The door swung wide, and I stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, and the air felt thick. I squinted, trying to make sense of my surroundings. Toys were scattered across the floor, forgotten in a haze of shadows. A small bed sat against the wall, its sheets ruffled as if recently disturbed. My mind raced with unanswered questions, but the most pressing was the source of that faint voice. Help me! I turned towards the call. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed the sound around the edge of the bed. It was an old toy chest in the corner, its paint chipped and peeling. Could the child be trapped inside? I hesitated. What if this was a trap, a ploy to lure me in? But then I heard it again, clearer this time. Please, help me! I approached the chest, fighting the urge to run. My hands shook as I lifted the heavy lid. The hinges creaked ominously. What I saw sent a jolt through my body. There was no child inside, only a collection of dusty dolls with hollow eyes and frozen expressions. Their smiles seemed mocking in the low light, and an uneasy chill crawled down my spine. I let the lid drop with a loud thud. Enough games, I muttered, trying to quell the rising panic. I turned to leave, but the room shifted. The light flickered violently as if there were a storm brewing just outside. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, louder than before. It came from the walls, echoed in my ears until I felt like I was being surrounded. My heart raced as I stumbled back toward the door. But it slammed shut before I reached it. My breathing quickened. What was happening? I pressed my palms against the door, ready to shout for help, but the words caught in my throat. The laughter twisted and turned to something darker. I could feel the gloom closing in on me, pressing against my mind. A deep voice drifted across the space. Stay a while, it echoed, taunting. Just then, I spotted a glimmer from the far corner of the room. In the shadows, a figure materialized, slender, almost childlike. I squinted, trying to discern if it was real. It hovered just beyond the edge of light, a mere silhouette. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I was paralyzed by a mix of fear and curiosity. Help me, the childlike figure whispered, its voice eerily echoing the plea from before. I took a small step back. Then I saw something flash in its hand, metal sharp. It raised it slowly, and I realized I was no longer welcome here. I lunged toward the door, throwing my weight against it. Let me out! But the door remained stubbornly shut. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered one last time, plunging the room into shadow as I felt the cold grip of fingers brush against my arm. Panic surged through me. I could feel their presence now, tangible and suffocating. Someone or something was in the house with me, and whatever it wasn't he going to let me go. I woke up to silence, but it wasn't he the comforting kind. It felt heavy, like a blanket of dread wrapped around me. My senses slowly came back, and I found myself on the floor, next to the toy chest. I looked around, but the room was still dark, the shadows shifting as if they had a life of their own. It wasn't a dream, I whispered, frozen in place. The laughter, the figure, it all felt too real. I pushed myself up and scanned the room, expecting some lingering presence. But everything was still. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. I couldn't stay here. I needed to find a way out. I shuffled towards the door, every fiber of my being alert for movement. With shaky hands I grasped the doorknob and turned it. To my surprise, it clicked open easily, but a strange hesitance held me back. Let me out, I said under my breath again, my voice barely a whisper. As I stepped out, the corridor was dimly lit, much like the room. The old wallpaper peeled away in places, revealing what looked like layers of decay beneath. It didn't feel like a safe place. The air was stale and thick, making me gag as the scent of mildew filled my lungs. Moving forward, I heard a light rustling behind me. My body froze. I turned sharply, but the hallway was empty. I shook my head, convincing myself it was just my imagination. I had to keep moving. I approached another door at the end of the hallway, this one slightly ajar. Light seeped through the crack, and as I peered in, I saw a small room lined with bookshelves overflowing with tattered books. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. It didn't take long for me to notice a dusty journal lying open on a small table. The pages looked brown and weathered. I hesitated again, but something compelled me to look closer. I ran my fingers over the pages, smoothing them down as I read the faded ink dated over 100 years ago. But the last entry sent chills down my spine. The toys watch, waiting for the right moment. They want to join us. The little one is restless. What the hell does that mean? I muttered. I closed the journal, needing space to think. That S when I felt an unsettling vibe behind me. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. My heart raced, and I backed away, sensing that I was not alone. Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, similar to before, casting eerie shadows around me. I felt the weight of eyes watching from the corners. Terror clawed at my throat. My instincts kicked in, and I bolted back towards the hallway. As I dashed, the laughter ramped up, circling me like a predator. The whispers joined in a cacophony of pleas mixed with taunts. Stay with us. I burst through the door and turned to see the hallway stretch endlessly before me. And then I saw the silhouette from before a flicker in the darkness. It was closer now, that childlike figure hovering, eerily calm. The sharp glimmer in its hand caught the light suddenly, a knife glinting ominously. "Why do you run?" it asked, its voice a chilling echo. "We just want to play." I turned and ran, the laughter chasing after me, relentless. It was too close now. I needed to escape. But the door had vanished behind me. All I could see was a wall of darkness, closing in. What was that laugh? I had to find out, but at what cost? I just hoped I hadn't unleashed something even worse. I ran without thinking, my legs pounding in rhythm with the frantic beat of my heart. The shadows shifted around me, stretching ominously, trying to trap me in their grasp. I could still hear the childless laughter echoing, bouncing off the walls like a twisted lullaby. The hallway felt endless. I glanced back, but the figure had vanished. I had to find a way out of this nightmare. I spotted another door, this one further down. It was painted a cheerful yellow, a stark contrast to the dreary surroundings. Maybe it led to safety. I reached the door and hesitated, placing my hand on the knob. It felt strangely warm. Taking a deep breath, I twisted it and pushed the door open. Light spilled into the hallway, bright and inviting. I rushed inside, quickly closing the door behind me. The room was small and bright, filled with pastel colors that clashed with the anxiety bubbling inside me. Sweet children's drawings hung on the walls, but they were unsettling eyes followed me as I moved. In the center of the room stood a small table with a tea set arranged neatly. The porcelain shimmered as if it had recently been cleaned. I scanned the room, hoping for some clue to help me understand where I was. On the table lay a tiny doll with button eyes, staring at me with an unnerving intensity. For a moment, I just stared back. Something about its look sent a shiver down my spine, reminding me of the laughter that continued to echo outside the door. That S when I noticed a shallow drawer beneath the table. My instincts pushed me to check it. Pulling the drawer open, my breath caught in my throat. Inside lay a collection of photographs, pictures of children with wide grins, all in the same room, all holding that same doll. My mind raced. Were they all here like me? What happened to them? I whispered to myself, gripping the edge of the table. As the question swirled, I felt a chill cutting through the warmth of the room. My eyes drifted to the door, and the sound of soft footsteps approached. I could hear the whispers coming from the other side, a chorus of voices blending into a frantic murmur. "Come play with us, the little one is lonely." Panic gripped me. I jumped back from the table, searching for another escape. Just then, the door rattled violently, the handle jiggling as if someone or something was trying to get in. I rushed to the window, hoping for an escape. It was barred, the glass grimy and coated with years of neglect. I turned, trapped as the whispers grew louder, now accompanied by the sound of giggling. The room began to pulsate with energy, shadows creeping beneath the door. Then, through the blur of dim light, I caught a glimpse of something move, something small and dark darting across the floor toward me. My heart leapt. The doll on the table tilted its head, and I realized the other eyes in the room were shifting, coming alive with a malevolent gleam. I stumbled backward just as the door burst open. The shadowy figure was there, framed in the doorway. Those childish eyes bore into mine, the knife glinting in the light with a deadly promise. "Why did you leave us?" it asked, its voice chilling me to my core. "You're one of us now." The laughter erupted again, reverberating as dread engulfed me. I had no choice. I had to fight back or find a way to escape this madness before I became just another lost toy in their game. The laughter intensified, a cacophony that rattled my bones. I pushed against the wall, my pulse racing. The figure moved closer, revealing gleaming teeth that contrasted sharply with its pale, ashen skin. "You can't leave," it said, its voice a sing-song melody now layered with menace. "You have to join us." My instincts kicked in. I couldn't let this thing trap me as it had done to the others. I darted to the side, shoving past the apparition as it reached out with chubby fingers. I had to get to the door. I was out of options, feeling foolish as I dashed for an exit with no real plan. The hallway outside was dark, but the echoes of that laughter followed me, wrapping tightly around my mind. I sprinted down the corridor, my breath coming in sharp gasps. I skidded to a halt when I saw another door at the end, this one painted silver, flickering under a weak bulb. Just as I reached for the handle, I froze. A silhouette appeared behind me, its shadow stretching and writhing across the walls. I turned, trying to peer into the murky dimness, but it felt like staring into a void. Panic clawed at me. I twisted back to the door, desperation fueling my movements. I yanked the handle and burst inside, slamming it shut behind me. I leaned against the door, chest heaving, my heart thumping loud enough to drown out the echoes of the laughter. The room was darker than the last, the air heavy and stale. As my eyes adjusted, I could see faint outlines of furniture draped in dusty white sheets. A sense of dread settled over me. "What have they done here?" I whispered to myself, scanning the room for a sign of life or a way out. I noticed shapes peeking out from beneath the sheets, chairs, a table, and something else. Something large. I approached cautiously, pulling a sheet off a nearby chair. Dust clouded the air around me, and I coughed. My heart sank when I realized the chair was facing an old, cracked mirror. At first, it appeared empty. Then I spotted something, a flicker of movement behind me in the glass. I whipped around, but nothing was there. The reflection, however, showed the figure from before, a ghastly grin stretching wide. "You can't hide," it cooed, its image flickering in and out. I felt frozen in that moment, fear threading through me like ice. I backed away slowly, trying to hold on to my sanity. Suddenly, I heard a child's voice drifting from another part of the house, soft but insistent. "Come play with a jolt." I remembered the doll. I had to find it. It might hold the key to all this madness. I turned toward the back of the room, searching for any sign of where the voices might be coming from. That S when I spotted it, a glimmer beneath the sheet in the corner. I rushed over and pulled back the fabric. The doll was there, but it wasn't he alone. Surrounding it were others, each identical, each staring at me with those same button eyes. I felt a tightness in my chest. There were whispers now, rising and falling as if competing with each other. "Take us home." I realized I had stumbled into something much larger. I might not leave this place unscathed. My heart raced with an urgency to escape, but I knew I had to gather my courage. I needed answers, and the only way forward was to confront the source of all this terror. Then the laughter erupted again, shaking the walls as I made my choice to stand my ground. I took a deep breath and steeled myself. The dolls stared back, their eyes unblinking. I couldn't shake the feeling that they were watching my every move. I needed to figure out what was happening, and maybe these dolls knew something. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice wavering slightly. The whispers stopped for a moment, then started up again, quieter this time, almost conspiratorial. "Join us," they murmured, the voices overlapping in a haunting chorus. It felt like they were echoing the same line from the figure outside the door. I knelt down, inspecting the dolls more closely. They all looked identical, with stitched mouths and clothes faded from time, but one stood out, a small red thread tied around its wrist. I reached out and tugged gently, startled when the doll's head turned slightly as if acknowledging my touch. "What do you want?" I questioned again, hoping for an answer. The whispers rose in pitch and volume, filling the room with a suffocating urgency. Suddenly, one of the dolls, the one with the red thread, seemed to vibrate in my hands. Without warning, the laughter grew louder outside, drowning out the whispers. It spiked my anxiety. I had to make a decision fast. Still holding the doll, I stood and scanned the room again, looking for another way out. That's when I noticed something flickering inside the cracked mirror, a distorted reflection of myself alongside the figure from before. It grinned wider, eyes filled with hunger. I stepped back, my heart racing. The faces of the dolls seemed to alter their expressions, shifting from dullness to anticipation. Were they drawing energy from my fear? It felt dangerously close to a trap, one that would pull me right into their world. I gripped the doll tightly, making a snap decision. "No!" I shouted, voice harsh against the laughter echoing in the hallway. "I want to join you." In an act of defiance, I hurled the doll back to the pile. But as it hit, the others reverberated, sending a shockwave of laughter followed by a dark, oppressive silence that filled the room so quickly it took my breath away. Then, the lights flickered and went out completely. I was plunged into darkness, leaving only the faint outline of the mirror to guide me, which now reflected a multitude of figures behind me. "Play with us," the childish voice was louder now, more insistent. I spun around, feeling a cold breeze brush against my neck. The door was still behind me, but the silhouette I had seen before was now much closer, its form more defined. Just as I took a step back toward the door, the whispers returned, rising in a frenzy. A cacophony echoed in my mind. "You can't leave, you must play." Panic gripped me. I fumbled for the door handle, but it felt like it was shifting just out of reach. I could hear them moving closer. They were coming for me. Then I remembered the thread on the doll. Maybe it was a link to whatever was happening here. With a wrenching sense of urgency, I spun back, searching for the dolls. I could still see their shapes in the dim light. I needed to act quickly before it was too late. But just as I reached for the red-threaded doll, a figure stepped into the weak light from the mirror. "I'm back," it said in a sing-song voice. "Did you miss me?" Everything inside me screamed to run, but I was paralyzed, caught between past encounters and a chilling new threat. The laughter faded, but the dread remained, looming and suffocating. I blinked in disbelief at the figure. For a moment, I didn't recognize them. But the familiarity came rushing back, the same mocking smile, the hollow eyes. It was the same person who had led me down this path of nightmares, now standing before me with an unsettling glee. "Why are you here?" I stammered, muscles tense, ready to act. "Oh, I just wanted to play," they replied, tilting their head like a curious child. "And you're perfect for it." Before I could respond, the dolls around me seemed to shift, their heads turning toward the figure with an eerie sync. It was as if they were ritualistically acknowledging their master. My heart raced. I needed to get out. "Your friends want to have some fun," the figure said, their grin growing impossibly wider. "Don't you want to join?" "Get away from me!" I shouted, stepping backward, fingers brushing against the door. But the handle felt slick and cold, like it was slathered in something I couldn't see. I needed to find a way to escape before the laughter started again. The figure moved closer, and with each deliberate step, darkness threatened to swallow the room entirely. The dolls stirred, their whispers rising again, morphing into a chaotic mix of giggles and taunts. "Play with us." "Play." "No!" I screamed, desperation flooding my voice. "I want tea." Then I remembered the red thread. I needed to reach the doll, to figure out its significance. I turned again and darted back to the pile, ignoring the figure's shrill laughter echoing behind me. "Why do you want that one?" they asked, voice dripping with mock curiosity. "You'll only regret it." Ignoring them, I knelt down, frantically searching through the dolls. They seemed alive now, shifting slightly as I invaded their space. The red-threaded doll lay just out of reach, its tiny form glimmering in the dimness. I finally grabbed it, tugging it free. In that instant, the laughter that had haunted the hallways twisted into silence. The dolls froze, awaiting my next move. I could feel their eyes boring into me, filled with hope, or was it hunger? "Good choice," the figure chirped, clearly ecstatic. But with that joy came a creeping realization. It was as if I had unlocked something. A connection sparked between me, the doll, and the countless eyes staring at me. "Now let us see what you can do," the figure taunted. "Show them how much you want to play." With trembling hands I grasped the red thread, willing it to become a lifeline. "What do you want from me?" I shouted. "Tell me now." But the figure only giggled as the dolls began to move. They surged forward, their stitched mouths parting wider, teeth sharp and gleaming. Panic surged within me, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I had to act fast. Then everything shifted. The mirror behind me exploded with brilliant light, pushing shadows back like a wave. The doll vibrated in my hands as if alive, a beacon in the chaos. I had no clue what it meant, but I felt something was about to happen. I didn't want to think about what awaited me if I failed. The laughter returned, wild and omnipresent, as I prepared for whatever twisted game they were about to play. With a final resolve, I faced the figure. "I won't be another player in your twisted game." But even as I said it, the echoes of the laughter flourished, drowning my words, leaving me questioning if I could truly escape their grasp. I faced the figure, clutching the red-threaded doll in my hands like a lifeline. The malevolent grin stretched across its face, eyes glinting with excitement. I felt the weight of its presence pressing against me, suffocating and unnerving. I took a step back, uncertain of what my next move would be. "Join us. You're perfect for our little game," it sang, the laughter creeping back in like a dark shadow. "No!" I shouted, my voice filled with more conviction than I felt. I had come too far to give in now. Clutching the doll tighter, I repeated, "I want to play." The air around me thickened with a tense silence, but the figure seemed unfazed, tilting its head slightly as if perplexed by my defiance. The dolls hung in anticipation, and for a split second, it felt like time froze, like the world paused to watch the inevitable collision of wills. Then, the room erupted in laughter again, the eerie sounds twisting around us in a cacophony of chaos. The figure lunged forward, a flurry of motion that felt almost tangible. My instincts screamed to evade, and I darted around the furniture, straining against the anxiety that bubbled at the edge of my mind. I didn't want to think about where this pursuit might end. I wasn't concerned about the darkness pooling all around me, but rather the flicker of hope that sparked when I clutched the doll tighter, its red thread a fragile thread in the fabric of this nightmarish world. Everything around me blurred as I plunged back into the fray of the hallway, the flickering lights casting ominous shadows that reached toward me like hungry hands. I pushed forward, desperation fueling my movements as I ran toward the door that I hoped would lead me out of this madness. Once in the hallway, I felt like I was in an echo chamber of shadows and whispers. "Stay with us," joined the laughter. They surrounded me, a phantom ensemble watching my every move. Each sobering step echoed through my mind, the laughter now rising to a fever pitch. I spotted the silver door again, glowing faintly like a promise. I rushed toward it, heart pounding as I reached for the handle, praying for it to be my lifeline back to reality. As I twisted it, the door opened, revealing a blinding light that pushed back the encroaching darkness. Without thinking, I stepped through, the light washing over me like a wave. The chaotic laughter faded into whispers, and the pressure of the shadows lessened. But as I broke through, something pulled at the edges of my consciousness, a lingering connection, echoing those haunting words, "You're one of us now." I stumbled into the new space, enveloped in a bright, cheerful room filled with colorful walls and children's drawings. Sunlight streamed through the windows, banishing the dark fingers of fear. But even as I looked around, an unsettling feeling clung to me. The doll in my hands felt heavier now, as if it contained the weight of all that had happened. With each moment, I expected the laughter to resurface, the shadows to chase me down again. Yet, here I stood, disoriented but free, or so I thought. I searched the room for a way out, glancing at the remnants of innocence that filled the shelves. It felt too calm, too normalized, and my heart thudded suspiciously in my chest. Was this truly an escape? I stood rooted in place, processing what had transpired, when I caught a flicker of movement in the reflection of the window. I turned, and for a fleeting moment, I saw them, a group of indistinct figures, their faces obscured but their grins unmistakable against the sunlight. As they materialized, a cold wave washed over me. I felt the connection tighten, the threads of that red string binding me to the laughter, the chaos I had fled. The room around me felt both liberating and claustrophobic, the walls vibrating with energy torn between two worlds. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts, fighting against the nagging theme that replayed in my mind. Stay a while. I moved toward the center of the room, holding the doll, a conduit of all that had transpired. Was it a curse or a blessing? What did the doll want? Did it long for companionship or freedom, just as I did? Questions wrestled in my mind as anticipation hung thick in the air. But before I could draw a conclusion, I felt a ripple brush past me. I turned to see figures drawing closer, their bodies shifting like shadows, grins growing wider. "You're not leaving," one whispered, a chilling echo glimmering on the edge of familiarity. Was I still in their grasp? Or had I found a way to break free? I could hear the laughter at the fringes, taunting, inviting, alluring. The doll vibrated softly in my hands, urging me to make my choice. As the figures closed in, I tightened my grip on the doll, standing firm. I didn't know what would come next, but in that moment, I felt an unusual understanding radiating from the doll, resonating with my own defiance. My heart swelled with uncertainty, clashing against the dread that loomed near. Standing at the precipice of two realms, with both fear and curiosity entwined, I knew this wasn't just about escape. This was about redefining my own narrative, forging my path in a world that had promised only darkness. And then the grins faded, and the laughter echoed away into the light. I moved forward into the unknown, clutching the doll, unsure where this new journey might lead me. But for now, I was free, at least for the moment. And somehow, I felt that maybe, just maybe, the answers would come in time.